Nestled in the Coromandel Peninsular Mountains, just 3 kilometres from the township of Coromandel, is the Driving Creek Railway and Pottery. But what, you may ask, have a pottery and railway got in common? What's the connection? The story begins in 1973, when New Zealand potter Barry Brickell bought 22 hectares of bush and tree-covered land to build his pottery workshop on. On the land was a good deposit of yellow plastic clay from a volcanic source, which he could use in his pottery production. But how was he to get the large quantities of clay he needed from the quarry to his workshop? Barry Brickell had an idea. As a railway enthusiast, he would build his own railway to transport the clay down the hillside. Track laying began in 1975 and continued for the next 15 years. Once he began to transport his clay and firewood downhill, people began to visit to see his innovative system. In 1990, the railway was officially certified to carry fare-paying passengers. For firewood, he uses self-seeded pine, which he is removing so that native forest can be restored. Today, there is a regular daily schedule of 2 departures, with more added during the summer peak. Well over 1 million passengers have now taken this 1-hour return trip. This innovative railway route includes 5 major viaducts. One is a unique double-decker connected by a spiral. There are 3 short tunnels, 5 reversing points creating a switchback or zigzag system. There are 2 horseshoe spirals. This is New Zealand's only working narrow gauge mountain railway. The rails are only 15 inches or 381 millimetres apart. The specially constructed carriages can each carry 36 adults, sitting 2 abreast. The railway's rather difficult route was surveyed using homemade instruments, which is just part of the ingenuity displayed in the construction of the Driving Creek Railway. maximum gradient that the train can work on is a slope of 1 metre increase in every 15 metres. However, the average grade of the whole line is 1 in 26. Besides the timber milling of the early settlers, this is the area where New Zealand's first official gold discovery was made in 1852, resulting in an increase in population and a demand for farmland. Several of the cuttings have retaining walls made from recycled bottles. At various spots along the journey we have the opportunity to spy examples of Barry Brickell's pottery genius. The railway attracts tourists from around the world, and coach tours often book out an entire train. Proceeds from the railway fund the native forest restoration project. As the invasive exotic pine is removed for kiln firewood, native tree seedlings are planted as replacement. Once this landscape was dominated by magnificent indigenous kauri forest, but this was destroyed by the early settlers and government desires to create farmland. But in time, this native forest will return to clad the hills once again. In fact, along the route we do sight areas of attractive regrowing forest. This tunnel entrance displays examples of Barry Brickell's creative inspiration. This is one of the line's reversing points. While the train pauses in the reversing pane, the driver is able to walk to the opposite end, reset the points, and drive the train on further. With the train control centre at each end, the driver is always facing the forward direction. As we pause for a moment on this reversing point, we can get a good view of Coromandel Township. The line ends at this building, known as the Eiffel Tower. At around 170 metres above sea level, this vantage point offers great views in the coastal area with its islands and bays and regenerating forest. Beyond is the Hauraki Gulf. This is also the place where the train driver has the opportunity to give the passengers more history on the building of the Driving Creek Railway. In the distance is an overhanging reversing point from which we soon are able to see the Eiffel Tower as we embark on our return trip down to the Potteries. One of the attractions of the ride has to be the large areas of New Zealand tree ferns growing along beside the track. Our hour-long journey ends back where we started. Here we have the opportunity to wander around the workshop area, to visit the pottery shop, and to inspect the terracotta garden sculptures on display. It's easy to see why Driving Creek Railway has become one of New Zealand's most popular tourist attractions. And it's all thanks to the vision of one man, Brickell.